Well, hello neighbors. Welcome to my kitchen table. I'm John, your whiskey neighbor. Today I'd like to talk to you about a blend, a little bit about the company, Compass Box. This is Great King Street Artist's Blend. Well, as I said in the intro, I want to talk about this blended Scotch. And since I think it is the first Compass Box that I've done on the channel, I do need for a moment to talk a bit about John Glaser and Compass Box. So if you're just here to hear about Great King Artist Blend, maybe skip a few minutes ahead. So I've never met John Glaser. I've never been over to the UK. So I'm just sharing what my impression is of this fellow through the articles that I've read, a few of the interviews that I've seen with him. But I'd like you, if you're new in your whiskey journey, to stop and think a little bit about Scotch and blending, and do we need to do things in the same way we always have to still have a quality product? And I would say that John Glaser, with Compass Box and the team he's built around him, are whiskey makers who deeply desire craft. They are building the best spirit, the best tasting spirit they know how, but they love experimenting and they love trying to figure out how to make the best whiskey. So I know that Compass Box doesn't distill, well, that I'm aware of, doesn't distill their own whiskey. Instead, they go all over looking for, tasting, sampling, and then buying Scotch and other whiskey. And then, maybe it's always Scotch. I should know that. But at any rate, then they also go around and get the right casks, the right wood from various cooperages around Europe and in America, and then they start to play. So this here, and I just want to say, John Glaser has continued to get himself into trouble because I remember the first story, date I don't know, could be back in the early 2000s. One of the first whiskeys that his group put out was Spice Tree. And so he sourced good whiskey, and then he put it in, he was going to put it in some oak, but he wanted to really bring up the flavors that French oak can do. So he put stabs of French oak in the cask with the whiskey, let it marry in there for a bit. And I believe it was the Scotch Whisky Association said, not a chance. If you're going to do that, you can't call it Scotch, which he still very much wanted to do. So had to pull it off from the shelves or something, but they couldn't sell it. Then he said, okay, how can we still get at these flavors that I want? And as I understand it, because you can still buy Spice Tree today, is they ended up building the head, like the cap of the barrel, out of that French oak. So that way it was still just the barrel or the cask, and it wasn't additional pieces of wood in it. And I believe that is how now the Scotch Whisky Association says, okay, you can go ahead and do that. I share that because it's an example of how he wanted to go after a certain flavor, tried something, they said, no, you can't do that, but then he figured out another way to try to get at some of that flavor. I don't actually know enough about the history of Compass Box and John Glaser. I wanted to share that with you, and hopefully you can catch a bit of my passion in saying that this is a company and a person that I think is making quality whiskey. They're taking their time sourcing their liquid. They're taking their time sourcing their wood. They're taking their time aging it. They don't release age stamps, but clearly they're not, innovating to try to make whiskey cheaper. They're innovating to try to chase a flavor they're looking for. So there are two entrances, are the Great King series. This is a blended Scotch whiskey. One thing that I really like about their products is it's always not colored. So there's no coloring in what you see here. and there's no chill filtration as well. So all the oils and waxes or whatnot. Pretty low ABV for being non-chill filter. This one's only 43%. As I understand it, I haven't had the other King Street, which I'm going to be blank on right now. But the other King Street, I think, has a little bit of peated whiskey in it, whereas this is all more like Speyside, Highland type Scotch whiskey in it. Now, being a blended Scotch whiskey means it's going to have some malt whiskey, which is made from barley. And if that came from one distillery and it was just that barley, then it could be a single malt. That's not what this is, but it has some malt in it. And then the blend, the other part of the blend will be a grain whiskey, which usually in the UK is corn or wheat with maybe a bit of barley, maybe malted barley to get it going. And the difference also is malt whiskey, barley, and in pot stills, whereas grain whiskey is corn or wheat and often distilled in columns. Not always, but just kind of in general. One thing I know about this blend, it doesn't say the percentages. Oh, I think John got into trouble. He released a whiskey because he thinks we should all know, and I totally agree. Exactly. Like if this is a blend, I should know that it's 10% Glenlivet and 10% Annock. And like I should know what's in here, and I agree with that. The Scotch Whisky Association have said no, you can't do that. So I don't know exactly what's in here, but I definitely have heard John Glaser talk about the Artist Blend series, and that it is predominantly or mostly malt whiskey with other grain whiskey in it. All right, that's enough history. This is great King Street blended Scotch, non-chill filtered, non-colored Artist's Blend. Here are some thoughts, so hopefully tune back in. So this nose is a welcoming, kind of sweet. For me, it's a light apple sweetness, a honey sweetness, a little bit of lemon in there, light lemon, not strong, not overpowering citrus, but a little bit of that. Not a lot of spice, pretty light, pretty clean, not heavy in the alcohol. Yeah, a little more honey. They're a little bit into the honey caramel, just a little bit, or maybe vanilla. But light, sweet, gentle fruit. Like when I say a light apple, or a light pear, just a little bit of fruit in there, not a whole lot. Let's give it a taste. I was just seeing if there was any information about the blend. I don't see it on the bottle. So, first thoughts connect with your nose, your aroma right away. Right, you get a little bit of that fresh fruit and a little bit of sweetness. Now maybe a little like vanilla for sure, but there's also a little bit of spice, which is nice in there. There's some wood notes that come up fairly quick. And I was talking through the tasting. I better get back. Yeah. And the finish is not long, but it's enjoyable. It's a nice little bit of a warm hug, a little bit more oak. It does fade fairly quickly, but it doesn't fade into anything unpleasant. And the other thing is that the mouthfeel is quite nice. I find it does what I want. It kind of coats. It feels like I'm drinking something a little more substantial. And for a Scotch, and it's blended, but I would say kind of in that Highland Speyside leaning. It has all of the flavors that I'm looking for, with a little more caramel, a little more wood spice. Well, maybe not caramel, but a little more some kind of cooked sugar, and a little more wood spice, and has a really nice mouthfeel. So this is their entrance blend. But I'm sure you can tell by my intro, I'm quite excited about the work that these guys do, and John Glaser in particular. And I wouldn't shy away, if you like Highland Scotch, to give it a try. right? This, though it's blended, is blended really well, and the flavors come forward quite quickly. I think you won't be disappointed if you like any of the entrants. Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, even Glenmorangie a little bit. Like to me, this is not a single malt, but it competes very, very well with the single malt. I think they've done a fantastic job putting this together. Now, that's a lot of praise. If I'm being critical of this whiskey, for me, I wish there was a little more depth of flavor. It is a little light, refreshing. Thankfully, there's some spice in there that comes out. If that spice was missing and the mouthfeel was missing, to me, it'd be a very forgettable Scotch, just kind of a run-of-the-mill. But with that extra spice and with the really nice mouthfeel that I think is coming from the non-chill filtration, I enjoy it. It still doesn't kick up beyond about 3.5 stars for me. It's not going to change your world, but it's often very affordable. I know I'm always on my channel telling you about great deals. I happen to know, again, where they're clearing it out for a ridiculous deal. I don't even want to say the price because I don't want to. But this sits on the shelf normally around that $45 mark where I am in Canada. And at $40, it's really an excellent Scotch. Yes, it's a blended Scotch, but it has significantly more flavors than some of the big house blends if you've had those. And I would definitely put it in the same kind of genre of those entrants, but well done single malt Scotches. So my thoughts on Compass Box and John Glaser is that I will, as budget and availability allow, try everything they put out. They're that good. When I come to this entrance point in their range, it's good. It's solid. Lots of flavor. I mean, critically, I can't give it much more than about 3.5 stars, but in terms of value, whatnot, I guess it punches beyond that. And I certainly enjoy it. So thanks for tuning in for this quick Scotch review. I hope you guys are having a good lead up to the Christmas season. You take care.